don't like what I smoke. I don't like what you smoke. But I don't go busting down your door in the middle of the night. Haul you off to prison just to prove that I am right. Live your life your own way. That's the way it's gotta be. 'Cause when freedom is outlawed, only outlaws will be free.
Our city chair, Isaiah Matos, was on Fox Business News yesterday at 6:15 on Neil Cavuto's show, promoting the event this afternoon. And the reports that I have are that it went very well, and that they treated him, they were quite nice and treated him very well. You're never quite sure with mainstream media how they're going to react to libertarians. But evidently they were so impressed that they were considering covering the event this afternoon in the city, so that would be terrific too.
Right now we'll be releasing a video in the next week or two, CNN reporter. Most of you may have seen that for the Tea Party, a very biased report with the gentleman with the baby and her going off and ignoring what he had to say and trying to find biased people or people that didn't represent the movement as a whole. We'll be putting out a video. I actually found the gentleman with the baby, who I'll be doing an interview with in the next week or two. So basically beating down the press with their own coverage and showing how inaccurate the reporting is. We also, for 4th of July, 4th of July, we'll be creating a video. It's going to take a 3-month project. Mr. Michael Jingosian, who's on our board of directors, has agreed to, through his company Angel Vision, to create a video for Free and Equal, which will be launched after July 4th. So the July 4th effort will transition into all of the key individuals, leaders in all 50 states will then have access to an online virtual portal to Free and Equal for their state, for their party, break down the congressional districts, and then they will be able to unite all these candidates to work together as far as creating awareness, basically an online dictionary for all the candidates free and equally, and then eventually incorporating into online or real debates through Free and Equal in the upcoming months, years, and so on. So I'm showing how
is bring youth and optimism and energy to the party, because I think we're in a very promising time. I think people are waking up to the libertarian message, and I think that what we need to have is a sense of optimism and enthusiasm, because that is what is going to bring the most active people, the most idealistic people, the most dedicated and hardworking people to the party, and that's the face that I hope to put on. Dedicated and hardworking.
Hey Jeff, how's it coming? Alright, I'm just shooting. A little bit here and there.
One of the things I want to do is to give you an idea what our mission is, and to ask how different it is maybe from your mission. Our mission is to defend and promote the fundamental principles and values embodied in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the U.S. and New York Constitution, including freedom of speech, religion, the right to privacy, equality, and due process of law for all New Yorkers. Here is where I hope we find our common values. In the belief that the Constitution is a contract between two parties, the governed and the governing assumes an affirmative duty on the part of each to abide by it in good faith. And he's a black guy and he works on civil rights issues. And he answers up as this, he says, you got to understand something. As a black man in America, how important the Second Amendment is to us. He says, if you think back, and he wrote this, he said, if you think back to the 20s, the 30s, the early part of the last century, when there were a lot of lynchings going on, that the Ku Klux Klan knew which villages, which hamlets, which people down there owned guns. And those were the villages and the towns and the hamlets that were there no lynching.
Chris and I met, I think, through the curfew. Was it originally the curfew?
I believe so.
And he asked me to talk about, to come here today and talk about property rights in Rochester. for about 20 minutes. And I said, what am I going to do for the other 19? And he said, well, maybe you should talk about the lack of property rights in Rochester. And I thought, yeah, that'll take a little bit longer. So any discussion of property rights, of course, has to begin with curfews. What does that have to do with property rights? Nothing, I just like talking about it more. When I was 23 years old, I was walking down East Plain Street in Wayland, Massachusetts, dressed about like this. And I had short hair then, and a very short beard. And a police officer yelled to me from across the street and asked me to come over and talk to him. And I went over and talked to him. He asked me who I was and where I was going, and I was very polite and answered his questions. And at some point he asked me one more question than I felt inclined to answer. And I said, do you have anything that's remotely like probable cause? Because otherwise I'd like to leave. And he said, well, my sergeant told me to stop anyone who was on the street after midnight. And I said, I'm thinking your sergeant might have missed a day at the academy. And I turned to leave. And he grabbed me, threw me up against the police car, put me in handcuffs, and took me to jail. Any discussion of
the problem with the political process is we've got somewhere between 60 and 80% of the electorate that just don't freaking care about anything. They don't vote. They don't get involved. That's the problem. That's what we here in this room and the rest of us that are like us have to do, is we have to get those other people off their soft butts, off their soft sofas, and get them involved.
But they don't want to. They don't want to risk their criminal lifestyle.
Well,
see, that's my risk. You know, that's
you
what
don't
I've
have
done
to.
here.
You don't have to risk anything to get politically involved. You don't have to risk anything to write a letter to your senator. You don't risk anything by getting on a bus going to Albany and walking around the Capitol building with your NRA hat on. There's no risk involved there. But what you are doing is you are telling those people, damn it, I'm a gun owner and I vote. And I'm tired of this stuff. That's why we're going. You know why the unions have so much control in this state? You know why? No, it's not because they vote. It's because when it's time to go to Albany, they show up by the thousands. If you've ever been to the legislative office building on Union Day,
their job is to get on the bus and go to Albany.
Well, that's the point. That's the point, is they show up, all right? But you ask a gun owner to go to Albany and defend his rights, I can't take the time. I have so much control.
We get another call from the woman, calls our dispatch. What are you going to do something about this guy selling drugs in front of my house? And the dispatcher very smugly said to her, ma'am, I suggest you take a look. That person is sitting in the back of a police car right now coming into the station. And she says, take a look. I am looking. Who's out here now selling drugs then? That job was filled before they got back to the station. Why? Because there's too damn much money in it. $500 billion a year worldwide industry, according to the UN. I can't think of a good capitalist that's going to look at that number and say, boy, how do I get a piece of that?
Does anybody remember when methamphetamine in the late 60s was a concert drug, so you could stay kind of high for about 4 to 6 hours and go to a show and then come back and stay alert while you drove home at 3 in the morning?
Yeah.
And it was better than acid because the side of the road didn't turn purple when you were driving home. I'm Gene Tonelli. I'm a psychiatrist. I specialize in addiction, substance abuse disorders, and also trauma. I'm the associate professor at the medical school in Syracuse, and I'm also the psychiatrist on the PTSD team at the VA. I'm a military-trained psychiatrist. My attitudes come in large part from my military training and working on the Pacific Rim, working with shamans. Anybody here been in the military? Yeah, get it right off the top. You're standing in front of your commanding officer. You're in uniform. You've done something a little inappropriate or irresponsible, and your commanding officer looks at you with those big bashful eyes and asks you, what's the best excuse for inappropriate behavior? What's the only acceptable answer? There is none, sir. That's it. I judge behavior. That allows me to be kind of open about how I treat people and health-oriented and harm reduction. But I learned that in the military. Your body does something to his body, your body's responsible. I don't care if you're crazy or sane, drunk or sober, stoned or straight, PTSD, PMS, bad hair day. I don't really give a day, so you're saying drunk